How do we keep pets separated when we're working with a smaller space? This question came up on a video talking about keeping pets separated initially when you first bring home a new pet. But this question also comes up a lot in my work when I'm working with families experiencing intra-household conflict. In those types of cases, sometimes we need to be able to keep the dogs physically and visually separated some of the time, or sometimes all of the time for now, and sometimes in the long term. One of the reasons that it is so important to take integration so slowly in the beginning with a new pet is to try to avoid ending up in a situation of intra-household conflict. Once we already have negative experiences, it is a lot more work. And the more negative interactions our pets have with each other, the more the relationship deteriorates. And so that proactive approach with a new pet can save us a lot of time and heartache. But how do we do that if we're working with limited space? Whether we're being proactive or we're working through an intra-household conflict case, there can be pros and cons to different variables. Smaller spaces can be hard because you may not have as much physical space to create distance between the pets. Larger spaces can also be challenging in that a lot of them are open concept and it can feel harder to create physical barriers. This pops up with other variables too. So there are benefits to being the only human in the house. You have to worry a lot less about other people creating management breakdowns, like leaving a gate open. But the flip side of that is that you're managing everything on your own, and that can be really challenging. Whereas having more people in the home to offer that support can really help distribute some of the work. So there are pros and cons to all sorts of variables. And we often need to use those skills of creativity and imagination to come up with solutions that work for everyone. So particularly if I'm in a proactive situation where there are no negative interactions between the pets yet, I may not need a ton of space to create the distance that everyone needs to be able to relax. I may divide a room using an X pen, for example, and put up a physical barrier like a sheet or a blanket. Or if my space has rooms, I may use like the bedroom, for example, to create a sanctuary spot for the new dog. Crates are definitely not my first go-to in these sorts of situations, but to borrow the phrase crate and rotate, we can use that same sort of principle here, even if we're not physically using crates. So using like the X pens, using the bedrooms, and swapping out the dogs. My new pet probably needs to be getting a lot of sleep and rest and decompressing. And I probably don't want to throw too much at them in the way of novelty and challenges and big experiences while they're decompressing. So I may focus on getting my resident pets out of the house. Some of that space can help to take the pressure off. So can my pup go spend some time with a friend? Can a friend like take them out to a sniff spot or on a walk? Can they spend some time at a family member's house? Is daycare an option? Can they come with me while I run errands? And especially within the context of this proactive work to integrate slowly and ensure that our pets are building a positive relationship together, it can be really helpful to remember that this is temporary and that we are doing that work up front to try to avoid a situation where we need to do that work in the longer term. When we're doing this as part of intra-household conflict, and it may be a longer term situation, there I think it can be really, really important to make sure that we are building sustainability into the plan. And that's one of the big benefits, one of many, I think, of working with a behavior consultant for those types of situations. Because even if they haven't seen your exact situation before, they have probably seen situations similar enough that they have a plethora of ideas about how we can make this setup, whatever that looks like, sustainable for the family, even if it feels like there may not be a solution.